Friday night, VIP lounge at Club Spade. I've pre-ordered 10 bottles of Ace of Spades. See you there, babes. Chloe leaned against my cubicle partition, sipping Coca-Cola through a straw. Her peach lip gloss left a sticky, greasy ring on the plastic straw.
Peach.
She always wore peach. Of the 6 people in our department, 5 nodded in agreement. I was the only one who stayed silent. Avery, you coming? She tilted her head, looking at me. I declined flatly.
No.
She stopped sipping her soda. Oh, why not? Just don't want to. Are you worried about the money? Don't be. It's covered by the team budget. Mr. Davis already approved it. Ace of Spades is $2,300 a bottle. 10 bottles is $23,000. Our quarterly team budget is $500. How exactly are you planning to write this off? Someone coughed outside the break room. Harper's fingers froze over her keyboard. Chloe slowly pulled the straw from her mouth and stood up straight. Avery, you're so funny. The owner is a close friend of mine. He's giving us a massive discount. How massive? Like, super cheap. Give me a number. I'll do the math for you. She didn't answer. Her perfectly manicured nail scraped against the soda bottle. Whatever. Don't come if you don't want to. She turned on her heel and walked away. At 3 in the afternoon, Mr. Davis called me into his office. Avery, I heard you refused to join the team building event.
Yes.
Mind telling me why? The pricing doesn't make sense. 10 bottles of Ace of Spades, even at half price, is way over our $500 budget. He tapped his fingers on the mahogany desk. There was a coffee mug on his desk with a crooked heart drawn by his daughter. I'll look into that. But Avery, your attitude is the problem here. Chloe worked hard to organize this, and you embarrassed her in front of everyone. Mr. Davis, I didn't embarrass her. I was just doing the math. You could have asked her privately. Doing it like that makes it look like you're accusing her of embezzlement. He cut himself off, realizing where that sentence was heading. Just get back to work. Watch your tone with your coworkers. Leaving his office, I saw Chloe standing at the end of the hallway. She had a fresh bottle of Coke in her hand. Avery, what did Mr. Davis say? Her voice was pure honey. Nothing bad, right? It's fine.
Good.
Honestly, I don't care where we go. I should have asked you first. Next time, I'll make sure to get your input, okay? She draped her arm over my shoulder, pretending we were best friends. Chloe, how many team events have you organized this year? Maybe 7 or 8? And they're all expense to the company? Of course. It's team building. Do you still have the receipts? Her grip tightened on my shoulder. Her sweet smile faltered for a split second. Why the sudden interest? Want to see them? I can show you. No need. I'll look them up myself. I walked away. She chased after me, her voice still sweet, acting as if nothing had happened. Okay. Next time then. Back at my desk, my phone buzzed. In our department Snapchat group, Chloe had sent a voice note. She spoke in a low, conspiratorial whisper. Avery seems really stressed lately. Let's all show her some extra love, guys. 5 minutes later, Harper peeked over her monitor, looking around before whispering to me. Avery, you shouldn't have picked a fight with her. Morning. Nobody answered. At 8:06 a.m., the only sounds in the office were the clicking of keyboards and the low hum of the AC. I put down my bag and noticed my computer was already on. The screen was locked with a red warning. Your account has been forcibly logged out. Please contact the administrator. The charging cable on my power strip had been unplugged, and there were visible nail scratches near the port. Carter sat across from me, his AirPods in, his head buried in his screen. I went to the admin desk to borrow a cable. When I got back, a tall cup of iced Americano was sitting on my desk. I picked it up. I knew it was Chloe's doing. She was the only one in the department who ordered from that specific hipster cafe. Next to the cup was a pink sticky note. Her signature stationery. Avery, don't be mad. It was my fault. Let me buy you coffee to make up for it. I tossed the coffee straight into the trash can. But I kept the sticky note and locked it in my drawer. During the 10 a.m. weekly meeting, Mr. Davis was writing the schedule on the whiteboard. When he reached the marketing campaign column, he paused. Avery, what's the status on the Cascade Media account this week? Before I could speak, Chloe cut in. Mr. Davis, the client mentioned something to me yesterday. It seems like there was a bit of friction in their communication with Avery. I'm not entirely sure. They just brought it up casually. Her tone was hesitant, as if she were reluctant to speak. It was classic Chloe. Vague enough to make the boss suspicious, but innocent enough to keep her hands clean. What friction? Mr. Davis turned around. Well, their director, Mr. Brooks, mentioned that the handoff wasn't very smooth. I didn't want to pry too much, since it's Avery's project after all. She turned to me, her face a mask of pure apology. Avery, please don't hate me. I'm just telling the truth. I stared at her, calm and cold. Her words had laid 3 hidden landmines for me. Mr. Brooks told you this? When? Last Thursday afternoon. He called my cell. Did you call him back? Is there a call log? Hearing my questions, she looked deeply hurt. Avery, why are you interrogating me like a criminal? I didn't record the call. Who keeps logs of casual phone calls? Carter was the first to defend her.
Exactly.
Chloe was just trying to help, and you're acting like… That's enough, Mr. Davis waved his hand. Avery, put together a detailed log of your communications with Cascade Media and have it on my desk by the end of the week. Meeting adjourned. At 2 p.m., I logged into the company's HR expense portal. The team-building expense reports were filed under the administrative module, 1 page per month. March, sushi restaurant, expensed at $4,800. April, karaoke lounge, $4,500. June, interdepartment mixer, spa resort, $12,000. The limit for interdepartment events was $5,000. I pulled up the original attached receipt. It was a handwritten invoice with a blurry digital stamp. There were faint white edges of correction fluid around the total amount. It was slightly misaligned, revealing half of the original digit underneath. The original $5,000 had been changed to $12,000. I took a screenshot. The exact second I saved the file, a Snapchat message from Chloe popped up in the corner of my screen. Avery, what are you up to? Let's go grab a drink downstairs. They have a new seasonal menu, my treat. She was sitting 3 rows away, smiling at me through the gap in the cubicle walls. How did she know what I was looking at? No, thank you. Don't be such a loner, babes. Everyone thinks you've been acting super weird lately. She walked over, her stiletto heels clicking sharply on the tiled floor. She bent down, leaning close. Her voice was barely a whisper, meant for my ears only. Avery, some files on the portal are meant to be opened. Others are better left alone. Her peach perfume was suffocatingly sweet. She was so close I could see the edge of her colored contact lenses. I was just browsing.
Good.
She stood up and blasted a message to the group chat. Afternoon tea is on me, guys. Drop your orders below. Within 3 seconds, 6 excited emojis flooded the chat. Nobody tagged me. When the clock struck 5, we ended up alone in the elevator. She broke the silence first. Avery, those expense files you were looking at, even if there was something wrong with them, the person who signed off on them was Mr. Davis. The elevator dinged. The door slid open. She stepped out, turning back to look at me, her peach-glossed lips curving into a smirk. Who do you think Mr. Davis is going to protect? Avery, Cascade Media, just pulled the plug on you. Mr. Davis delivered the news on Wednesday morning. Before I could even sit down, he snatched the project folder off my desk. Pulled the plug?
Who said that?
Their director called yesterday afternoon. He said your communication was terrible and demanded a new account manager. Did Mr. Brooks call you directly? No. He called Chloe. She relayed it to me. Chloe again. The calls always went through Chloe. Mr. Davis, can I call Mr. Brooks directly to clarify this? No need. The client's message was loud and clear. Chloe will take over the account for now. With that, he turned and walked away. I opened my phone and pulled up Mr. Brooks' contact info. Our last text was from 3 days ago. He had sent a data feedback form ending with, "Great job, Avery. The strategy is solid." I sent a message. "Mr. Brooks, regarding the change in account managers, do you have a few minutes for a quick call?" The moment I hit send, a red exclamation mark appeared next to my message. The man who had praised my work 3 days ago had blocked me without a single word of explanation. I slammed my phone face down on the desk. I knew this was a coordinated hit, but without solid proof, I had to keep my cool. At lunchtime, I went to the break room to get some water. 3 coworkers were crowded around the microwave. The second I walked in, their voices instantly dropped to whispers. "Yeah, I heard the embezzlement thing is pretty serious." Shut up. Carter walked past me with his lunchbox. His eyes never met mine as he brushed right past. The other 2 quickly scattered, leaving me alone with the humming microwave and a half-heated lunchbox that belonged to God knows who. When I got back to my desk, I noticed my drawer had been tampered with. The files inside had been shuffled. The pink sticky note Chloe wrote to me was gone. My flash drive was missing too. The flash drive containing the expense screenshots, which I had left right next to my keyboard this morning, was gone. I booted up my computer. The screenshots on my desktop were gone. Even the recycle bin had been emptied. The security camera over our section had been awaiting repairs for 3 months. I remembered Chloe posting in the group chat back then. "We're all family here. Why do we even need cameras?" At 5 p.m., Chloe walked back into the office, carrying a large bakery bag. Hey guys. I took a baking class and brought some homemade chocolate chip cookies. Grab one. She distributed them to everyone. When she reached my desk, she dropped the bag in front of me. Avery, I saved the biggest one for you. Don't be polite. She hadn't said a single negative thing about me in public all afternoon. Yet every single person who walked past my cubicle quickly looked away. Some killers don't need knives or broken bottles. They just trap you in a world where everyone believes them and slowly suffocate you. At 6 p.m., I was waiting for the bus outside the office building. Harper walked up and stood beside me. She stared straight ahead and spoke quietly. Did you know Mr. Davis's wife is Chloe's cousin? I tilted my head. How did you find out? At last year's annual gala, his wife came to pick him up. Chloe ran up and called her cousin. There were 200 people in the lobby, but I was standing at the exact angle to hear it. The bus pulled up and the doors opened. As she stepped on, she turned back. You can't bring her down, Avery. Don't waste your breath. Avery, please report to HR on the 19th floor immediately. The email was sent at 8 a.m., CCing Mr. Davis, the head of admin and legal. Legal. In my past life, legal had never been involved in a routine HR meeting. The door to the 19th floor conference room was wide open. 5 people were already seated inside. Sarah, the HR director, sat in the center. Marcus from legal was on her left, and Mr. Davis was on her right. At the far end sat a middle-aged man in gold-rimmed glasses, flipping through a thick stack of printed documents, an external auditor. Have a seat. Sarah's tone was cold and professional. In front of her were several printed sheets filled with tables and signatures. Avery, take a look at these. Do you recognize them? She slid the papers over. They were 5 expense reimbursement forms. The amounts were $16,000, $23,000, $18,000, $21,000, and $19,000, totaling $97,000. In the employee signature box, my name was written in bold ink. On every single page. The handwriting was an exact match. The tilt of the letters, the curve of the loops, even the little flourish at the end of my Y was identical to my natural handwriting. But I had never signed these. I didn't sign these. These claims were submitted through your employee portal account, the auditor said, pushing his glasses up his nose as he opened another folder. System logs show that these 5 claims were submitted in January, March, May, July, and September of this year. Mr. Davis approved them all. They were filed as inter-department event expenses, totaling $97,300. Upon verification, 3 of these events actually cost less than $300. The other 2 never even happened. They never happened. I stared at the signatures. In my past life, I had never even seen these documents because I hadn't survived long enough for the annual audit. Mr. Davis, did you review the details of these claims when you approved them? Mr. Davis's face turned ash gray. He gripped his travel mug so hard his knuckles turned white. Chloe told me Avery submitted them and that she was just helping her run the paperwork. I didn't. I trusted. The door opened. Chloe walked in. Her eyes were red. She clutched a tissue in her hand, her nose slightly pink. She had either just cried or was perfectly primed to start. I'm sorry I'm late. She took the only empty seat, right next to me. Sarah, I have to take some responsibility for this too. She kept her head low, her voice trembling. I was the one who helped Avery input these into the portal. She said she didn't really know how to navigate the expense system, so she gave me the physical forms and I submitted them for her. I didn't look at the amounts. We're team members. I trusted her. She looked up at me. In those watery eyes, there was no guilt, no sympathy. It was the deep, sick satisfaction of a predator watching its prey step right into a steel trap. Avery, tell them. Didn't you ask me to submit them for you?
No.
If you're going to deny it. Her voice cracked. Then, whose signature is that? The auditor spoke up. We ran a preliminary handwriting comparison. The signatures on these forms match Avery's employment contract and daily sign-in sheets with a 91% match rate. 91%. Sarah looked at me, her voice dropping to a grim tone. Avery, you have 2 choices. Cooperate with the internal investigation and tell us where the money went, or the company will file a police report for corporate fraud. Chloe's shoulders shook with quiet sobs. Tears dripped from her chin onto the polished table, one by one, with perfect, practiced rhythm. Sarah, Avery is a good person. Could there be some kind of miss? She couldn't finish her sentence. She covered her face, letting out a muffled sob. The eyes of everyone in the room softened as they looked at Chloe. They looked at her with far more warmth than they ever did at me. My ID badge was confiscated, my computer was locked, and I was suspended pending investigation, effective immediately. I was banned from the office floor. As I walked out of the conference room, the hallway was dead silent. Chloe ran out after me. The tears on her face had miraculously vanished. There wasn't even a smudge in her foundation. Avery, wait up. She slipped past me, blocking the elevator doors. She pulled a fresh bottle of Coke from her designer bag, twisted the cap off, and took a sip. Do you know why I chose you? I didn't say a word. Because you're so damn useful. Last year, on your first day, Mr. Davis asked who was willing to spend their weekend organizing the archives. You were the only one in the whole department who raised your hand. I knew right then. She took another sip, running her thumb along the rim of the bottle. Just plead guilty, Avery. It's only $97,000. You can pay it back in installments. I'll even beg Sarah for you. You'll get a write-up, but we won't involve the cops. And if I don't? She tilted her head. Her peach-glossed lips curled into a smirk, her false eyelashes fluttering. If you don't? Avery, I've seen the agenda for the annual company-wide meeting next Friday. Your name is on the very last page. Do you know what's on the last page? She shook the soda bottle at me. The termination announcements, babes. The security guard, a man named Henderson whose pension was 3 years away, didn't look me in the eye as he escorted me to the lobby turnstiles.
He was
holding my cardboard box with both hands like it contained toxic waste. Just doing my job, Ms. Vance, he muttered under the hum of the fluorescent
lights.
I know, Henderson.
Don't worry about it.
I took the box from him at the glass revolving doors. Outside, the midday autumn. Air hit my face, sharp and biting, stripping away the artificial, recirculated oxygen of the 19th floor. Across the street, the tinted windows of the high-rises reflected the gray clouds rolling in from the north.
I didn't take the subway.
I walked 4 blocks down to a 24-hour diner tucked behind a parking garage, a place with vinyl booths cracked with age and no Wi-Fi to speak of. I set the cardboard box on the laminate table, ordered a black coffee, and unzipped the inner lining of my laptop bag. Chloe thought she had taken everything. She had stolen the physical flash drive off my desk. She had emptied the recycle bin on my office workstation. She had watched with that venomous, peach-scented smirk as the IT administrator revoked my domain credentials and locked my badge. What Chloe didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know in this life, was that I hadn't started gathering evidence this week. I had started gathering it 11 months ago, on the day I woke up back at my desk with the taste of copper in my mouth and the memory of a fraudulent indictment burning behind my eyelids. In my first life, I was naive. I believed that doing honest work and keeping your head down was an impenetrable shield. When Chloe forged my name on $97,000 of falsified vendor payouts and luxury entertainment write-offs, I spent my energy crying in HR, begging Sarah to believe me, screaming at Mr. Davis about fairness. Davis had stonewalled me. Chloe had cried prettier tears, and the company had quietly referred the file to the district attorney to save face and claim an insurance tax write-off. My career had ended in a court-appointed plea deal, a ruined credit score, and an unpayable restitution order that followed me into an early grave. This time, I hadn't spent the last 6 months being a victim. I had spent them acting as the perfect, predictable mark. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a burner phone, a prepaid Android, bought with cash 3 months ago. I slipped out the microSD card hidden inside the false battery casing and slotted it into a cheap, air-gapped tablet I kept in my personal backpack. The screen lit up. Every single screenshot Chloe deleted from my office desktop was already mirrored here. But screenshots of the internal portal weren't enough to beat a 91% handwriting match in front of a legal tribunal. A screenshot could be doctored. An audit trail in a proprietary system could be overwritten if the department director had administrative override permissions, which Mr. Davis did. I needed the 3 things Chloe couldn't delete. 1. The destination bank accounts for the manual reimbursement checks. 2. The authentic testimony of Mr. Brooks from Cascade Media. 3. The physical mechanism she had used to forge my signature. I took a sip of the bitter coffee. The clock was ticking. Next Friday, 6 days from now, was the annual shareholder and employee assembly in the grand ballroom of the Marriott Marquis. That was where the executive board announced promotions, annual bonuses, and the public severance of disgraced personnel. Chloe wanted my name on the final slide under summary dismissals and legal referrals. She was going to get a presentation, but it wasn't going to be the one she rehearsed. At 3:30 p.m., I stood in the marble lobby of the Apex Tower, the headquarters of Cascade Media. The receptionist gave me a sterile look when I asked for Mr. Brooks. Do you have an appointment? Mr. Brooks is currently in back-to-back quarterly reviews. Tell him it's Avery Vance from the Horizon account, I said calmly. Tell him I'm here to return the contract draft he supposedly rejected on Tuesday. 10 minutes later, I was riding the elevator up to the 14th floor. Marcus Brooks was 52, with iron gray hair, a meticulously tailored charcoal suit, and the restless energy of an executive whose time was billed at $800 an hour. When I entered his corner office, he didn't offer me a seat. He was standing behind his mahogany desk, his arms crossed over his chest, his expression cold enough to freeze water. Ms. Vance, I thought I made my position clear to your agency, Brooks said, his voice clipped. I have no patience for unprofessionalism, and even less for vendor reps who think they can insult my creative director over corporate messaging. I didn't flinch. Mr. Brooks, on Tuesday afternoon at 2:15, did you block my phone number? He frowned, his brow furrowing. I told your associate, Chloe, that I didn't want any further personal communication from you after that disgraceful email you sent to our marketing lead. What email? Don't play dumb, Brooks snapped. He reached over, tapped his keyboard, and spun his external monitor toward me. On the screen was an email thread originating from Avery Vance at Horizon-Agency.com. The message, sent at 11:42 p.m. on Sunday night, was an unhinged, arrogant rant, criticizing Cascade Media's campaign brief, calling their creative team incompetent amateurs, and demanding an immediate 20% advance fee increase before I would release the final media asset deliverables. It was signed with my standard corporate footer. I looked up from the monitor directly into Brooks' eyes. Mr. Brooks, what IP address sent that email? He blinked, taken aback. What? Look at the full header, I said, stepping forward and pointing at the screen. You're a Tier 1 media conglomerate. You have enterprise cybersecurity filters. Click the drop-down menu on the top right. View original message.
Source.
Brooks stared at me for 3 long seconds. He was an experienced corporate operator. He could smell when something didn't fit the pattern. He pulled his mouse over, clicked the options button, and expanded the raw SMTP headers. Look at the originating IP, I said quietly. Horizon's office server is routed through a dedicated static block, 64.128.990/24. What does that header say? Brooks leaned in. His eyes scanned the raw code. Received from 172.56.41.109, mobile broadband, T-Mobile. Xmailer. Web client session auth cookie proxy X originating device, iPhone 14 Pro Max. Chloe Iowa. The silence in the room became absolute. Chloe has administrative delegate access to our department's shared outbound queue, I explained, keeping my voice level and measured. She has had it since February, when Mr. Davis signed off on a system upgrade. She didn't just tell you I was difficult, Mr. Brooks. She logged into my webmail profile using an active session token from her phone and sent that email herself. Brooks' jaw tightened. The anger in his eyes shifted, slowly turning into something dark and dangerous. Why would one of your account executives deliberately sabotage a 7-figure client account? Because Cascade Media wasn't just an account to her, I replied, opening my tablet and pulling up the 5 fraudulent expense claims totaling $97,300. Cascade Media was the justification code for $80,000 of non-existent client entertainment expenses. I swiped through the PDF documents Sarah had shown me in HR. Look at the vendor line items, Mr. Brooks. 5 separate charges for executive strategy dinners and VIP client retainers at Club Spade, the St. Regis, Penthouse Lounge, and Le Bernardin. All submitted under your name as the guest of honor. All approved by Mr. Davis. All claimed to have been organized by me. Brooks stared at the expense sheets. His face flushed a dark, furious red. I have never set foot in Club Spade in my life, Brooks hissed. And I have never had dinner with anyone from your agency outside of our annual lunch at the Union League Club. I know, I said. And right now, HR and legal are preparing to hand me over to the police for stealing that $97,000.
Chloe told them I
forged these forms. The handwriting on the authorizations is a 91% match to mine. Brooks looked up from the tablet. His eyes were razor-sharp. What do you want, Ms. Vance? I want the complete server logs from Cascade's incoming mail gateway for the past 6 months, I said. And I want you to attend the annual assembly next Friday. Brooks leaned back in his leather chair. A cold, feral smile touched the corner of his lips. Ms. Vance, not only will I give you the logs, I'll bring our chief legal counsel as my +1. Finding the mechanism of the signature wasn't a matter of guessing, it was a matter of geometry. At 7 p.m. that evening, I sat in a rented booth at a private co-working hub across town. On the desk were high-resolution scans of my genuine signature from my onboarding contract, set alongside the 5 forged expense sheets provided by the auditor. I opened Photoshop, converted both signatures to high-contrast monochrome vectors, and layered them on top of each other. If a human being signs their name 5 times, there are natural microscopic variations: the angle of the stroke, the pressure of the pen tip, the slight wobble in the curve of the loop. No two human signatures are ever completely identical. When I superimposed the 5 forged signatures over the signature from my January 2022 non-disclosure agreement, the lines didn't just look similar. They were a mathematical clone. Every curve, every dot, every stroke thickness was an exact 1:1 vector overlay, down to the 1/10 of a millimeter. An auto pen, I whispered to myself. Or worse, a high-resolution laser stencil. Plotter. I remembered something. 3 months ago, Chloe had run a department charity campaign for handwritten holiday cards for underprivileged youth. She had brought in a specialized digital cutting plotter, a machine used for scrapbooking and precision embossing, claiming she was using it to print decorative gold foil onto cardstock. She had asked everyone in the office to sign their names on high-density transfer film so the machine could digitize our signatures for the company holiday banner. Everyone had signed it. Carter, Harper, Davis, and me. She hadn't just stolen my signature. She had cut a permanent, physical acrylic template of my signature with a CNC laser head. Whenever she needed to sign my name to an internal requisition form, all she had to do was place the plastic stencil over the box and run a 0.5 millimeters black gel pen through the groove. That was why the auditor's forensic software had flagged a 91% match. It wasn't a freehand forgery. It was a mechanical copy of my actual stroke geometry with only the slight bleed of the ink creating a 9% variance. I pulled out my phone and dialed Harper's personal number. The line rang 4 times before clicking open. Avery? Harper's voice was nervous. Hushed. Why are you calling me? If Carter or Chloe sees my phone buzzing. Harper, where's Chloe's craft toolbox? There was a dead pause on the line.
What?
The pink plastic organizing bin she keeps under her desk for her DIY stationery. And baking ribbons, I said, my voice steady and urgent. Is it still there? Avery, don't do this. Mr. Davis was in her cubicle for an hour after you left. They were laughing. They're having a celebratory dinner with the regional director tonight. It's over. You're already off the org chart. Harper, listen to me, I said, dropping my tone until it was cold steel.
When?
The police come next week. They aren't just going to arrest Chloe. Mr. Davis approved those funds under our department's operational code. Every single person who signed an attendance sheet for those fake team-building events is listed as an accessory to fraud. Did you go to the spa resort mixer in June?
No.
I was home with the flu. Harper gasped. Your name is on the sign-in roster, Harper.
Chloe signed you in.
When legal hands this file to the state prosecutor, your name will be on the indictment list right next to mine. Do you think Davis will protect you? He didn't even protect his own integrity. I heard Harper's breathing turn ragged on the other end of the line. She was smart enough to understand corporate mathematics. When the ship goes down, the captain sacrifices the deckhands first. What do you need me to do? She whispered, trembling. Go to her cubicle while the cleaning crew is on the floor, I instructed. Look. Inside the bottom compartment of that pink craft bin, there's a transparent acrylic plate about 3 inches long, with my name laser etched through the center. Take a photo of it with a ruler next to it, then put it inside an envelope and leave it in locker 42 at the transit station. What if she locked it? The key is taped behind the framed photo of her dog on her desk, I said. A pause. How?
How do you know that?
Because I know Chloe better than she knows herself, I said. Get the stencil, Harper, and save yourself. Finding the forgery and the fake emails solved the question of how Chloe framed
me.
It did not solve the question of where the money went. In modern corporate banking, an expense reimbursement is not handed out in stacks of $100 bills. When an employee submits an expense claim, the accounting department reconciles the receipt and issues an automated clearing House, ACH, direct deposit to the bank account registered to the employees. Payroll profile. My payroll profile had not received $97,000. If it had, my personal bank account would have triggered an automatic IRS Form 8300 audit months ago. So how did $97,000 leave Horizon's corporate treasury without touching my account? On Thursday morning, 48 hours before the annual meeting, I sat in the office of Thomas Vance, my uncle, who had spent 30 years as a senior forensic accountant for the Federal Reserve before opening his private consultancy. Thomas looked over the reimbursement ledger sheets over the rim of his reading glasses. "It's an old trick, Avery," Thomas said, tapping a red pen against the vendor. "Disbursement codes. Look at the payment method box in the top right corner.
It
doesn't say ACH direct deposit." I leaned in. The tiny abbreviation in box 14B read, MNLCHKVND. Manual check to third-party vendor, Thomas explained, his voice dry and clinical. These claims weren't filed as out-of-pocket employee reimbursements. They were filed as direct vendor invoices on behalf of employee delegation.
The
checks weren't made out to you. They were made out to an entity called Laura Marketing and Events LLC. Who owns Laura Marketing? Thomas spun his desktop monitor toward me. He had already pulled the corporate registration filings from the Delaware Secretary of State database. Laura Marketing LLC was incorporated 14 months ago. Registered agent is a shell corporate service in Wilmington. But look at the beneficial ownership declaration filed under the Corporate Transparency Act. I looked at the name on the screen. Beneficial owner, Laura Davis. The room seemed to drop 5 degrees. Laura Davis, Mr. Davis's wife, Chloe's cousin. The money never went to any hip cafe, any club, or any luxury spa, Thomas said, leaning back and lacing his fingers together. Horizon's Finance Department cut 5 manual corporate checks totaling $97,300 directly to Laura Marketing LLC. The checks were mailed to a commercial mail receiving agency in Queens, deposited into a business checking account at Chase, and within 48 hours of every deposit, 85% of the funds were transferred out via wire to an overseas luxury goods consignment broker in Monaco. And the remaining 15%? I asked. Thomas pulled up another transaction record. The remaining 15% was transferred directly into a personal checking account belonging to one Chloe Lynn. A complete, closed, self-sustaining circle of grand larceny. Chloe provided the forged employee documentation to shield her cousin-in-law. Mr. Davis used his departmental authority to sign the expedited manual check authorizations, bypassing standard procurement oversight. Laura Davis received the corporate loot through her shell company. Davis and his wife laundered the money into offshore luxury assets, and Chloe received a 15% kickback on every single forged claim. And at the bottom of every paper trail, like a lightning rod designed to take the strike when the storm hit, sat my forged signature. I stared at the bank records, feeling a calm, crystalline clarity wash over me. "Uncle Thomas," I said, standing up and sliding the documents into my leather portfolio, "can you prepare 3 certified copies of this financial flow chart by tomorrow morning?" Thomas smiled, a grim, wolfish smile. "I'll give you 5, Avery. Make sure you don't miss." Friday, 2 p.m. The Marriott Marquis Grand Ballroom. The room was vast, bathed in the soft amber glow of recessed spotlights and chandelier fixtures. Over 600 employees, executives, regional directors, and key corporate clients sat at 70 round banquet tables draped in white linen. At the VIP front tables sat the executive suite, the CEO, the chief financial officer, Sarah from HR, and Marcus from legal. At table 12 sat the marketing and accounts department. Chloe was the center of gravity. She was wearing an ivory Alexander McQueen power suit, bought, no doubt, with the proceeds of the July reimbursement check. Her hair was styled in immaculate, glossy waves.
Her lips were coated in that
signature, sickeningly sweet peach gloss. In her hand was a crystal glass of sparkling cider, which she tapped playfully against Carter's glass. To the new senior account lead, Carter toasted loudly, his face flushed with admiration. "Nobody deserves the promotion more than you, Chloe. Especially after having to clean up the mess that deadweight Avery left behind." "Oh, Carter, stop." Chloe giggled, covering her mouth with manicured fingers. "Avery was just going through a hard time. I really hope she finds peace wherever she goes next. We all make mistakes." Mr. Davis sat beside her, radiating the comfortable smugness of a middle manager who had successfully severed a loose thread. He checked his gold watch, smiling. At his department, the CEO's address starts in 5 minutes. Chloe, make sure your tablet is ready. When they call your name for the Innovation Leadership Award, your project deck needs to be queued up on the main screen. Everything is uploaded to the master presentation queue, Mr. Davis, Chloe purred, batting her false eyelashes. It's going to be unforgettable. Behind them, sitting alone at the edge of table 28 near the back exit, Harper kept her head down, her hands shaking as she toyed with her napkin. She didn't say a word. In her purse was the receipt for locker 42. On the main stage, the giant 40-foot LED video wall flickered to life with a company logo, Horizon Global, Excellence in Integrity and Vision. The CEO, Arthur Sterling, stepped up to the podium. His voice boomed across the auditorium through the state-of-the-art line array speakers, delivering the standard corporate platitudes about quarterly growth, client retention, and ethical responsibility. And now, Sterling announced, his voice carrying the practiced gravity of a seasoned executive. Before we move to our departmental leadership appointments, there is an administrative matter of internal governance that must be formally addressed by our Director of Human Resources, Sarah Jenkins. Sarah stood up from table 1, smoothed her charcoal skirt, and walked up the stage stairs with a thick black folder in hand. At table 12, Chloe leaned back in her chair, whispering to Carter, "Hear it
Comes.
the trash cleanup." Sarah adjusted the microphone. "Thank you, Mr. Sterling. As part of our annual corporate compliance audit, Horizon upholds a policy of absolute transparency regarding ethical breaches. Today, we must formally announce the termination and legal referral of an individual who has engaged in systematic financial malfeasance." Sarah clicked her remote control. The giant LED screen behind her was supposed to display the termination slide. Avery Vance, employee ID number 8841, gross misconduct and forgery. Instead, the screen flickered black. A sharp, digital tone chimed through the ballroom audio system. The screen lit up again, but it wasn't the HR slide deck. It was an ultra-high-definition video feed of a split screen. On the left side, the high-resolution vector overlay of the 5 forged expense signatures, flashing with a mathematical deviation score of 0% vector variance, mechanically reproduced by CNC plotter. On the right side, a high-resolution photograph of a clear acrylic stencil plate, resting on a millimeter grid, with the name Avery Vance laser cut through the center, resting beside a pink craft organizer labeled Chloe Lynn, private. The entire ballroom went dead, suffocatingly silent. 600 people stopped breathing. Chloe froze. The champagne flute remained suspended 2 inches from her lips. The peach gloss smile on her face didn't vanish. It ossified, calcifying into a hideous, frozen rictus. "What is that?" someone whispered at table 11. "Is that a stencil?" On stage, Sarah Jenkins turned around, looking at the giant screen in complete shock. "What is going on with the AV feed?" "Tech support, switch to the backup
Deck.
"Don't switch the feed, Sarah." A clear, resonant voice cut through the auditorium. From the double doors at the center aisle of the grand ballroom, I walked in. I was wearing a sharp, tailored midnight blue suit, my hair pulled back into a sleek, severe ponytail. In my right hand, I held an RF presentation clicker. Walking directly beside me was Marcus Brooks, director of Cascade Media, and behind him walked 2 uniformed officers from the Financial Crimes Division of the Metropolitan Police Department. The heavy thud of the officers' boots on the carpet sounded like thunder in the dead silence. "Avery?" Carter gasped, half rising from his chair. "What is she doing here?" "She's suspended." "Sit down, Carter," I said without even looking at him as I walked down the center carpet. "Mr. Davis's face went from pale to the sickly color of spoiled milk. He knocked over his water glass. The crystal shattered on the hardwood floor with a sharp, violent crack. "Security," Davis yelled, his voice cracking into a shrill falsetto. "Security, remove her.
She's trespassing."
She was terminated on Wednesday." "I haven't been terminated, Mr. Davis," I said calmly, stepping up to the foot of the stage and looking up at the CEO. "Because a termination based on fabricated evidence and corporate embezzlement is legally void." I clicked the remote. The screen shifted. A new document appeared, the complete corporate registry of Laura Marketing, LLC, highlighting the beneficial ownership of Laura Davis. Beside it, the 5 manual corporate checks appeared, each bearing the authorizing signature of Department Director Robert Davis, each showing the bank deposit trace directly into the joint account of Robert and Laura Davis at Chase Manhattan Bank. And below that, in glowing red font, the 5 subsequent wire transfers of $14,595 each, depositing directly into account #4902-881, Chloe Lynn. Over the past 10 months, I spoke into my lapel mic, my voice echoing off the high ceilings with absolute, surgical precision. $97,300 was extracted from Horizon's operational budget under the guise of client entertainment. The signatures on those authorizations were mechanically forged using a CNC cut template created by Chloe Lynn. I clicked again. The screen displayed the forensic IP audit from Cascade Media's enterprise mail server, showing Chloe's personal iPhone Mac address logging into my email profile at 11:42 p.m. on Sunday to forge client communications and sabotage the Cascade account. Marcus Brooks stepped forward, looking directly at Arthur Sterling and the board of directors. As the director of Cascade Media, Brooks announced in a voice that commanded every corner of the room, "I confirm that our firm never received these hospitality services, never authorized these line items, and never requested the removal of Ms. Vance. We were systematically misled by Ms. Lynn using forged digital communications. Furthermore, Cascade Media has already filed a formal criminal complaint for identity theft and corporate defamation against Horizon's marketing leadership." The ballroom erupted. Dozens of senior executives were on their feet. Whispers turned into shouts.
At
Table 1, the chief financial officer looked like he was about to have an aneurysm, his eyes glaring daggers at Davis. Chloe's hands began to shake violently. The crystal glass slipped from her fingers, smashing against the table and splashing sparkling cider across her pristine white Alexander McQueen suit. "No, no, this is a lie," Chloe screamed, her voice losing every shred of its sweet, melodic honey, turning into the raw, guttural screech of a cornered animal. "She hacked the system. Avery made all this up. Mr. Davis, tell them she's lying." Davis didn't look at her. Davis was clutching his chest, his eyes darting frantically toward the fire exits, his face drenched in cold, greasy sweat. I didn't know.
Chloe
Brought me the forms. I trusted her. She's my wife's cousin, she told me. Save it for the grand jury, Mr. Davis, the lead detective said, stepping up behind Davis's chair and pulling a pair of steel handcuffs from his belt with a sharp, metallic clink. "Robert Davis, Chloe Lynn, you are both under arrest for grand larceny, identity theft, and corporate fraud." "Don't touch me," Chloe shrieked, backing away toward the stage, her high heels stumbling over the carpet. Her immaculate hair was falling into her face, her eyes wild, bloodshot, and wide with terror. "Sarah,
tell them
I'm the victim. Here. Avery has always hated me. She's jealous of me.
she's trying to ruin my
Life." Sarah Jenkins didn't say a single word. She looked at Chloe with an expression of pure, unadulterated revulsion, slowly stepping backward to put distance between herself and the woman she had almost helped frame, an innocent person. The two officers closed in. Within seconds, Chloe's arms were pinned behind her back. The steel cuffs locked around her slender wrists with a cold, definitive
click.
As they hauled her toward the center aisle, her stiletto heels dragged against the plush carpet. The Alexander McQueen jacket was stained with soda and dirt. She looked at me as she passed, her peach-glossed lips trembling, tears of genuine, agonizing ruin carving black trenches through her mascara. "Avery," she whimpered, her voice pathetic, cracked, stripped of all power. "Avery, please, we're co-workers, we're family." I stood perfectly still in the center of the aisle. I leaned in slightly, just close enough for her to catch the faint scent of the cold autumn air clinging to my jacket, stripping away the suffocating stench of her artificial peach perfume forever. "Some files are meant to be opened, Chloe," I whispered in her ear, repeating the exact words she had hissed at me in the elevator 3 days ago. "And some debts have to be paid in full." She looked at me, her eyes widening in sheer horror as she finally realized that from the very first day, from the very first Coke bottle, from the very first forged signature, she had never been the hunter. She had only ever been the bait. The aftermath was swift, clinical, and total. By Monday morning, Horizon's corporate board had released an official executive bulletin exonerating me of all wrongdoing, issuing a formal apology, and assigning the full management of the Cascade Media portfolio, along with an Immediate promotion to Senior Director of Client Strategy and a double grade. Salary increase to my desk. Mr. Davis's office was cleared out before sunrise. His wife's shell company. Assets were frozen under a federal injunction, and Davis himself was facing up to 8 years in state prison for corporate embezzlement and tax evasion. Chloe Lynn was denied bail due to flight risk concerns after investigators discovered $20,000 in cash and a one-way ticket to Vancouver, tucked inside her apartment safe. At 5:30 p.m. on Monday afternoon, the department was quiet. Carter sat at his desk, his eyes glued to his keyboard, terrified to look up, terrified to breathe too loudly, praying that nobody remembered how eagerly he had defended Chloe during the weekly meetings. Harper walked over to my new corner office, holding 2 paper cups of tea from the quiet bakery around the block. She set one on my desk and looked at me with genuine respect and a healthy measure of awe. Locker 42 was emptied by the detectives this morning, Harper said softly. I know. Thank you, Harper. Are you going to fire Carter? She asked hesitantly. I glanced through the glass partition at Carter, who was frantically typing an email he had rewritten 5 times. No, I said calmly, taking a sip of the warm, clean tea. People like Carter don't need to be fired. They spend their entire lives living in fear of the next person who holds a knife. That's punishment enough. Harper nodded, smiled faintly, and stepped out, closing the glass door behind her. I walked over to the floor-to-ceiling windows. 22 floors below, the city streets were bustling with evening traffic, the yellow headlights stretching into ribbons of gold against the darkening autumn dusk. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the pink sticky note Chloe had left on my desk a week ago, the one that read, Avery, don't be mad. It was my fault. I let it drop into the metal wastebasket beside my desk. I struck a single wooden match, dropped it inside, and watched the pink paper curl, blacken, and turn to gray ash. The air in the office had never smelled so clean.